Hi Alfie, just wanted to have a look at this under 23 Swedish international long jumper, Thobias Montler. He's coached by Yannick Tregaro, and he's got a very similar technique to yourself, and I thought it'd be worth just having a look at some of the key positions that he gets into, certainly just at his takeoff phase and during some of the early parts of his flight phase as well. So although he is a dedicated long jumper, he's not a multi-eventer, and he's obviously a lot older than yourself. I think just some of the key positions just worth having a look at and comparing and contrasting with some of the positions you've managed to get into as well. Now this is a Diamond League competition he's shown here, so obviously slightly different than a training session, but still I think worth having a look at. So I'll run it through a couple of times, let you have a chance to review it, and then I'll describe some of the key positions. A22 PB I think he's got here. But very similar. So the first freeze frame here is his foot plant. You can see there's a slight knee flexion at takeoff. His swing leg, which is starting to come through, is at 90 degrees, or it's at 90 degrees to his stance leg, and parallel with the floor. You also notice his upper body position as well. It's got a slight incline or a slight decline. It's slightly leaning away from the takeoff board. And I wonder whether that's really helpful in his sort of trying to alleviate that counter rotation once he's left the ground. So here at takeoff, he's left the ground, and that swing leg is driven up hard at 90 degrees. Let's go that back one. One more. There we go. So the drive leg is swung through, held up at 90 degrees, and notice his opposite arm as well. There's a distinctive upwards motion of his hand towards his eye level, upwards and sharp, and then held in a braced position, all adding to that impulse as he takes off the board. So that's a nice shape, that. Okay, so now just it's dropped out of that kind of knee drive position, and that front foot is now extended directly out in front of him starting to create that long shape as he steps down. Huge, big, wide separation of his hips, and he's starting to counter-rotate his arms around the back of him. And here again, a couple of movements further on, that leg is still extended out slightly in front of him. Look at that nice long line from the back of his heel at the front foot all the way through to his shoulder as the arm comes round to meet him, and a nice long straight line. See how high his rear foot is, still behind his butt though. Very similar to the position that you're finding yourself in. And then from that position, he needs to drive that knee forward again and get them up out in front of him. So we'll see if he manages to do that. So he's starting to punch that knee through again, holding that in a position, and then finally into the seated position. Arms still up tall above him. His body, probably agrees, is still almost vertical there at that position, and it's almost a sitting position. And then as he starts to come down from the highest point, he's now attempting to drive the knee upwards towards the chest, trying to prevent that forward rotation as much as he possibly can, starting to lift his feet upwards towards his body. And what helps that is a huge downward sweep and press of his both arms down backwards and towards his hips in a reverse position. So he tries to extend his hips out in front of him and push his legs out as well. And then the final phase of his landing, you can see his hands have come almost behind his hips, well, fully behind his hips, as he now uses huge core strength to still maintain that lift of his legs, that heavy weighted legs still up almost parallel with the sand before his heels eventually drop into his landing. and then it'll be a sharp brought forward of the hands so they clear the sand, and his butt will follow through in the same trajectory as his body and follow where his heels have made breaking contact with the sand. So we've got a couple of repeat videos of yourself. Drive knee, legs swing through, trying to press the knees up to the chest and prevent that counter rotation or that forward rotation. Again here, drive up the knee, arm starts to swing round, creating a long position. Can we get the knee through? Gets it through in this one. Feet out in front of us, and we're starting to make our way down. So, freeze frame position. Here, foot plant, knee parallel with the floor. We're about to drive that knee forward, hopefully. Swing it right up as high as we can. And see the comparison? Very similar position at plant. Notice the slight lean away on this one though. I'm wondering whether or not that position there is more directly upright and vertical. Whether or not we can maybe try and have a look at, see what effect it might have to attack the board at just a fraction lean back. We're only talking 5% or so into that position. That might help just that, alleviate that forward rotation a little bit. Take off. Okay, nice extension in that back leg and that take-off leg. Driving the free leg through up to 90 degrees. Probably could do it a little bit higher. But note the drive arm in comparison with Thobias. His drive arm is up into position there. Direct contrast. Your arm is just straight out in front of you. So maybe we need to use that extra bit of force of the arm drive up to create a little bit more lift from there. And here we've got flight phase. Again, nice long position there we've got in the air. That front foot though, I'm just wondering whether we would be better off trying to step that down and out in front of us. Whether we can try and just press that down as if we're trying to step on the floor and hold it and that create that nice long line from our heel up to our shoulder. See the comparison? And then in the flight phase, both arms up, torso nice and straight, trying to get our knees through. And then as we come to the highest point, we're then trying to press our knee up to our chest to try and alleviate that forward rotation. You see how he's now driving the arms downwards and really pulling the knees up towards the chest and keeping his feet clear. So this is another example of an under-17 Italian athlete, I think, who's again a dedicated long jumper. But again, very similar to the other example. The front foot extension downwards, creating a nice long streamlined position. Knee drive up and held, knees to the chest, press down before the heels come into land. Again, driving the knee through. Look at the opposite arm as well, driving upwards towards eye level, creating that impulse. Nice elongated shape there, foot down in front of the body, in front of the hips. Here the opposite legs driven upwards, allowing the other knee to come through, and knee up to chest. And then pressing the arms right down, keeping the feet out of the sand until the last moment. And then eventually the heel drop into the sand, followed by the butt. So there you go. Just something worth looking at, I think.